In the shadowy world of strategic air power, few aircraft have captured the imagination and fear of military analysts like the B-2 Spirit. Known simply as the stealth bomber, the B-2 is one of the most advanced, secretive, and expensive weapons ever built. Developed by Northrop Grumman for the United States Air Force, the B-2 was designed during the Cold War to penetrate the most heavily defended airspace on Earth, deliver nuclear or conventional payloads, and disappear before radar even knew it was there. Its unique flying wing design, devoid of vertical stabilizers, gives it not only a ghost-like radar profile, but also a haunting silhouette in the sky, covered in radar-absorbent materials and equipped with cutting-edge electronic countermeasures. The B-2 can evade some of the world's most sophisticated air defense systems. Powered by 4 FOE 100 turbofan engines, it cruises at subsonic speeds, but compensates with an astonishing range. Over 11,000 kilowatts without refueling, and virtually unlimited with in-air refueling. The B-2's internal bomb bays can carry up to 18,000 of munitions, ranging from JDAM smart bombs to nuclear warheads. Its flexibility allows it to strike deeply buried bunkers or wipe out strategic infrastructure with devastating accuracy. Despite being operated by just a 2-person crew, the B-2 integrates real-time satellite data, advanced navigation, and mission planning systems to enable global precision strikes. Only 21 B-2s were ever built due to their immense cost. Over $2 billion per unit when including development. But what the U.S. received in return was a near mythical aircraft, one that has conducted missions in Serbia, Afghanistan, Iraq, and more, often flying halfway across the globe without being detected. More than a plane, the B-2 is a symbol. It represents invisible power, the ability to strike without warning, and the extreme edge of aerospace engineering. Even decades after its first flight in 1989, the B-2 remains unmatched, a flying phantom whose presence is felt even when it can't be seen.
Two F-117s are approaching their target over Baghdad. Below the cloud cover, radar-guided surface-to-air missiles scan the sky for signs of an imminent threat, but see little more than a small blip that fades into the background of noise. The payload bay doors open, revealing two GPS-guided bombs, destined for the assumed location of the then Iraq president, Saddam Hussein. This simple act may well have revealed the stealthy aircraft to radar below. Its exterior was molded by precise mathematical equations, every facet designed to disperse and absorb the electromagnetic energy surrounding the skies around them. With the bombs delivered and their location potentially given away, the defenseless planes quickly turned to escape enemy airspace. This was a highly specialized aircraft, designed to carry just 2 bombs in its payload bay, a plane that looked like a fighter jet, but if it met enemy fighters, the subsonic plane, armed with bombs meant for ground targets, stood little chance. It relied entirely on stealth to get behind enemy lines and strike without being seen. Something it did time after time during the Gulf War, striking 1,600 high-value targets without losing a single aircraft. The design began as a simple diamond that aerodynamicists of Lockheed's Skunk Works dubbed the Hopeless Diamond, a template for stealth, a shape that the famous former Skunk Works leader Kelly Johnson doubted would ever be able to fly. Turning this concept into a functional aircraft would take the very best aerodynamicists, propulsion engineers, structural engineers, and radar specialists that Skunk Works had to offer. They carefully chipped away at this simple but revolutionary shape to form a masterpiece. This is the insane engineering of the F-117 Nighthawk. The F-117 Nighthawk's journey began here, on the desk of Ben Rich, the newly appointed director of Skunk Works, taking over from the eminent Kelly Johnson. This paper, a Russian scientific paper translated by the Air Force's Foreign Technology Division, held the key to a new generation of aircraft. War is an ever-evolving game of cat and mouse, and in the past decade, aircraft had switched roles from predator to prey. The development of Soviet radar-guided missiles caught the US industrial machine by surprise, a sudden realization during the Yom Kippur War of 1973. Israeli pilots armed with the latest and greatest American attack aircraft lost 109 planes over just 18 days. These planes were mostly shot down by Soviet-supplied surface-to-air missiles supplied to the Egyptian and Syrian armies. These crews required a fraction of the training that was required to train a fighter pilot, and the systems themselves were vastly cheaper. The Russians had invested billions into the development of radar-guided surface-to-air missiles like the SA-5. These missiles could reach 125,000 feet in altitude and could even be armed with nuclear warheads to blast would-be raiders out of the sky. The extreme altitude would mean Russians on the ground would be shielded from the heat and shockwaves, and the strong winds of the upper atmosphere would carry the fallout to Western Europe. The effectiveness of these missiles was not down to speculation. The balance of the battlefield had shifted towards the Soviets. Air Force planners extrapolated these attrition rates out to a full war with the Soviets in Eastern Europe, and they saw the writing on the wall. The Soviets would wipe out the entire US Air Force in just 17 days. 2 strategies to counter this advancement emerged. Conventional wisdom of the time pointed towards designing a plane specifically designed to hug the terrain, to be able to fly long-range missions at extremely low altitude, hiding from radar in the ground clutter. This resulted in the B-1 Lancer. Its variable sweep wing allowed it to tailor its aerodynamics for both low-speed, low-altitude flight and high-speed, high-altitude flight. However, that wisdom would soon be challenged thanks to one brilliant scientist, Dennis Ovelhauser, who, on one fateful day, placed this paper on the desk of Ben Rich, a long, technical document full of complicated equations and theories, but for Dennis, Skunk Works radar dome expert, it held a treasure. The key to unlocking a new way of designing aircraft, a method to calculate the diffraction of electromagnetic waves. Stealth design was not a new concept. The SR-71's first flight predates the first day of development of the F-117 by over 10 years, and it incorporated some early concepts for stealth that were largely based around the laws of physical optics, reflection and refraction. Avoiding corner reflectors was a known method to reduce radar signature long before the F-117 was theorized. What this paper unlocked was much more complicated, once thought to be too complicated to solve: diffraction. Imagine waves approaching a harbour breakwater. It's designed to shield the boats inside from the energy of the sea. With just the laws of reflection, the boats should be completely unaware of the presence of waves outside these walls. And yet, through diffraction, the waves find their way inside. This is a messy, chaotic problem with too many variables to consider for simple analysis, and it only gets more complicated with electromagnetic waves. But this paper, unbeknownst to the Soviets, who allowed it to be published internationally, held the key to the technology that would allow aircraft to become the top predator once again. Ben Rich, the newly appointed leader of Skunkworks, under pressure to take the reins from Kelly Johnson, approved a computer program to be developed. And within 3 months, a working program that allowed simple shapes to be analysed was created, dubbed Echo 1, allowing them to theorize the hopeless diamond. This was, of course, not a plane. It lacked everything a plane needs to fly. It had no control surfaces, no propulsion, no payload. It even lacked a wing. Dennis was not an aerodynamicist. He was Skunkworks' radome specialist, designing the nose cones that housed their plane's radar. This design was a template that could be molded by the most skilled sculptors in aviation. Step 1 was to figure out its mission profile. This would decide several things: max payload, range, and propulsion. With stealth a priority, the F-117 could not have external hardpoints. This was going to limit its weapons capacity. It would feature 2 internal weapons bays, and the plane would be a precision bomber. Its weapon of choice were laser-guided bombs. Inside the nose of the aircraft hid a steerable turret containing a dual field of view infrared sensor, while a second infrared sensor was located to the right of the nose wheel well. And both sensors came with a laser which could be aimed at the target to guide the bomb with extreme precision. The sensors locked onto and tracked targets with help from the internal navigation system, switching from the forward-looking to the downward-looking systems as it passed over the target. These systems were, of course, heavily weather-dependent, as the plane could not guide the bombs through cloud cover, but GPS-guided bombs were also an option. These were the only weapons on board. The plane would be completely defenseless to aerial threats and would thus rely completely on stealth. And because of this, the F-117 was going to be a subsonic plane.
What if I told you the most advanced fighter jet ever built is one you've probably never seen in action? A jet so powerful, so stealthy, so untouchable, even America's closest allies weren't allowed to buy it. This is the story of the F-22 Raptor, the warplane that could dominate the skies, but was grounded by politics, secrecy, and timing. So why did the US build the ultimate fighter and then lock it away forever? The F-22 Raptor wasn't just another aircraft. It was a revolution in air combat. Designed to replace the legendary F-15 Eagle, the F-22 was the world's first true fifth-generation fighter, a lethal combination of stealth, speed, and maneuverability. It could supercruise, fly faster than the speed of sound without afterburners. It could outturn any jet in a dogfight with its thrust vectoring engines. And it could carry a deadly mix of air-to-air and precision ground weapons, all hidden within internal bays to maintain its invisible radar profile. It was unmatched, unrivaled, untouchable, and yet only 186 were ever built. None were exported. And today, the F-22 is fading into retirement. Because as incredible as the Raptor was in the skies, it became a political and strategic nightmare on the ground. Over the years, top allies like Israel, Japan, and Australia begged to buy the F-22. They saw its potential. They were willing to pay a premium. But every single request shot down. In 1998, Congress didn't just block sales. They passed a law making it illegal to sell the F-22 to anyone outside the United States. Here's where things get interesting. Unlike most U.S. military aircraft, the F-22 wasn't designed with foreign buyers in mind. It was too advanced, too secret. It carried next-level stealth technologies, sensitive radar systems, and production techniques the U.S. wasn't willing to share, not even with its closest friends. Why? Because the threat wasn't just on the battlefield, it was in cyberspace. China and Russia have been caught stealing American military secrets before. And in 2016, hackers got their hands on designs for the F-35, the C-130, and yes, even the F-22. Imagine exporting the Raptor, only to see its tech show up on a Chinese jet a few years later. The risks were simply too high, and the US had been burned before. Iran still flies F-14, Tomcats bought before the revolution. Venezuela protects its airspace with American-made F-16s. Even China's J-10 fighter, it's believed to be based on tech that started in the US, passed through Israel, and ended up in Beijing. So when it came to the Raptor, Congress wasn't taking any chances. No exports, period. But here's the twist. The Pentagon did quietly explore the idea of selling a version of the F-22 abroad. According to documents obtained via the Freedom of Information Act, multiple Air Force offices ran feasibility studies. They imagined a slightly downgraded export version, but in the end, Congress never approved the funding. And while the F-22 remained grounded in secrecy, the spotlight shifted to another jet, the F-35. The F-35 was cheaper, more versatile, and designed for global partners from day one. It became the international stealth fighter, while the Raptor remained America's lone wolf. And ironically, the Raptor came at the wrong time. While it was built to dominate peer adversaries in high-tech aerial warfare, it arrived in the middle of low-tech wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Conflicts where stealth fighters had little use. Instead of air superiority, the military needed surveillance drones, precision strikes, and counterinsurgency tools. The Raptor's unique strengths, its super cruise, its dogfighting dominance, weren't relevant in these wars. It was a Ferrari during a bicycle race. As priorities shifted, funding dried up. The original plan called for over 750 Raptors, but only 186 were made. And today, only a fraction are mission ready. Every flight wears them down. Spare parts are limited. And the production line? It's long gone, dismantled to make room for the F-35. So now the F-22, once the pride of American air dominance, is quietly being phased out. It's a strange legacy, a jet that could have ruled the skies for generations, but instead became a rare, restricted relic of a different era. It was too powerful to sell, too advanced to risk, and too early for the wars it never got to fight. This is the story of the F-22 Raptor, a fighter born to soar, but destined to stay grounded. the greatest warplane the world never got to fly.
F-35B Lightning II, a jet that redefined modern warfare. In a world where technology rules the battlefield, the F-35B Lightning II emerges not just as a fighter jet, but as a symbol of a new era in aerial combat. Designed with short takeoff and vertical landing capabilities, it redefines versatility, stealth, and networked warfare. Originally developed under the Joint Strike Fighter program, the F-35B serves the U.S. Marine Corps, the Royal Navy, and key allies. Unlike its siblings, the F-35 and F-35C, the B variant can take off from short runways and land vertically, making it ideal for operations on amphibious assault ships and makeshift airstrips. Its lift fan system and rotating rear nozzle allow it to hover and maneuver in ways traditional jets can't. Combined with radar-absorbing materials, internal weapons bays, and an advanced helmet-mounted display, the F-35B offers complete situational awareness and stealth. This jet isn't just a weapon, it's a battlefield node. It links with satellites, drones, ships, and ground forces in real time, serving as a flying command center, armed with AIM-20, AIM-9X, JDAMs, and laser-guided bombs. The F-35B balances precision and firepower, while its development faced delays and a $400 billion price tag. It has since proven its worth in real combat. Deployed in the Middle East and on U.S. Navy ships, the F-30B has dominated training exercises and demonstrated unmatched effectiveness. Despite early controversy, it now stands as a true icon of 21st century air power. The future of air combat is here, and it's flying under the name Lightning II.
This is one of the most controversial jets ever built. Not only is it the result of more than a decade of development and the successor to the legendary Flanker, but the West already claim it's just a copycat. It's a 5th generation state-of-the-art Russian stealth jet that apparently isn't stealth, and it's the future of the Russian Air Force, but they haven't managed to build more than 24. Controversial indeed. But it's possible that this aircraft is more than just a fluke. Is it just all Western propaganda? Or is it really a future dangerous underestimation of an adversary? Today, let's explore the history, the myths, and the truth behind the future of the Russian Air Force and their attempt at a stealth fighter, the felon from the East, the Su-57. In the 1980s, there was one type of new aircraft that was hot, and that was a stealth plane. The Americans took this in their stride and developed the ATF program that led to what we know today as the F-22 Raptor. But what if I told you that the F-22 Raptor isn't actually a stealth jet? Contrary to popular belief, stealth doesn't mean invisible to the radar, it means that the enemy radar, either an aircraft or on the ground, won't be able to detect and achieve a lock on the target in time. And this is the key word. The B-2 was designed as a bomber that would be able to slip between Soviet air defenses, limiting their range, and the F-22 Raptor was designed as a first strike air dominance fighter that could secure the airspace before the enemy could get missile lock. But the Russians, when encountering this technology, had other things in mind. They believed that the aircraft should have a higher performance first and stealth second. This led to their 5th gen jet program called the MFI, which was aimed at a high performance aircraft with some degree of radar cross-section minimization. It eventually gave birth to the MiG-144, which failed miserably, due to Russia as a whole failing miserably in the 90s. But the rejection in the MFI program led the Sukhoi Bureau to put their money where their mouth was and make their own futuristic fighter called the S-37 Berku. This self-funded aircraft aimed to become a technological demonstrator for the ideal future of the Russian Air Force and show the powers in charge what they could do. You know, the famous forward-swept wing design we all flew in Ace Combat. And this inspired the nation to try again. The Russian government, after the failure of the MFI program in the early 2000s, started a new program called the PAC-FAR, or Prospective Air Force Complex of Fighter Aviation. Yes, it's a very weird name, I know. Sukhoi was chosen without competition because they had the experience, proved to be able to develop a prototype with their own funding due to good export performance in the 90s and 2000s, and well, that the MiG's future wasn't really that bright. And Sukhoi, seeing all the drama around the F-22 being a stealth fighter, wanted to give it a good hot crack. And this is where the story of the Su-57 begins. This fighter jet was supposed to be the future of the Russian Air Force, but its subsequent production has hit many delays.